Good, she says. We meet on the roof. We, I say. Yep, the weather's nice now, so the roof's a great spot for lunch, you know. I see. You'll come, right? She asks. You wouldn't deny me the chance to make it up to you. Of course not, I say. Great, see you there. I stay afloat somewhere between asleep and awake, feeling completely drained. Not only my body, but all of me is limp and paralyzed, apart from my senses. I swallow with difficulty and then try to lie as still as I can, which in this state is not a very hard thing to do. The nurse is shuffling around on the other side of the curtains he drew to give me privacy. I can see his shadow shifting about in the sunlight. He's opened the window of his office. It's windy outside. The clean white curtains flutter in the breeze in a hazy, lazy motion, like waves. Light sifts through them slowly, half absorbing into the fabric. I close my eyes. The breeze on my face feels like the soft fabric of the curtains. I listen to the sound of my heartbeat for a moment, trying to shut out the sound of the nurse tapping away on his computer and my own heavy breathing. It's steady. Damn it, not even a week and I end up like this again. I really screwed up this time. Should have known better than to play the half-baked sports star in front of a real one. And why did I try to act brave, like that heart flutter was no big deal, even when it obvious that it was? It was just a reflex, to push it away, to keep it inside. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want Amy to see it. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I have to be more careful, or I will end up in the hospital again, or worse. That's my final thought before I give in to the tiredness. I fell asleep. For how long? What time is it? I'm feeling a little lightheaded and I keep blinking compulsively. Pushing the curtain aside, I squint my eyes against the unfiltered light pouring in from the window. The texture of the canvas feels nothing like the wind did before. The nurse looks up from his work, sitting exactly where he was before. "How are you feeling?" he asked. I can't really tell, so I don't answer anything. I'm feeling kind of groggy from falling asleep at such a weird time. Hopefully I don't look too weird. "What time is it?" I ask. Me croaking the question to gain some orientation, the nurse looking at his wristwatch before answering. Things seem to happen in slow motion. 10:15, he answers. I try to think for a moment what that means, but I'm not really sure. "You didn't answer my question, Hisao." "Oh," I say, "fine." "Climb down from that bed then, and let's see how you're doing. Don't..." I try to do exactly that, only to sway dizzily when I move too fast. The nurse moves to support me by an arm and sighs. "Stand up too quickly is what I was going to say. Just sit there, I'll check your pressure to make sure." My good intention sure lasted for a long time. I shut up, embarrassed with myself, while the nurse gets busy with an old-fashioned contraption in my arm. After a couple of minutes, he puts it away, looking neither pleased nor unhappy. "You're all right. Head stopped spinning?" "Yeah." "Good," he says. "And how are the contents doing?" "You didn't show very good judgment out there, Hisao." I swallow the retort I was going to make. It's what I was thinking myself, but hearing it stated by somebody else makes me want to protest. What he's saying is not pleasant to hear. It doesn't make him any less right. "No, sir," I say. He nods, still looking as neutral as he was before. It would be easy to be angry at him if he said, "Told you so," or something, but he doesn't. "I can try and help you keep your health," he says, "but ultimately the last call lies with you. Hopefully this little episode will be something that will remind you of that. Here, a note for your teacher, to avoid an interrogation." I take the slip of paper he's offering and then make my leave, as I can't think of anything else to say, nor even really want to. Stay out of trouble, you hear me, he says. I don't think it was anything but a scare, but next time could be different. I hear you. There's some way to get to the school building straight from the auxiliary building, but I'm not keen to find out and possibly get lost, so I go out from the exit that I know works. I stop at the stairs of the auxiliary building, deliberating for a moment between going to the dorms to get my books and stuff and going straight away to class. The sun stings my eyes, so I head toward the dorms. The halls are quiet as the courtyard was. Naturally so, since everyone is in class. I knock lightly at the door of 3-3 and push open the door when Muto calls from the other side. Sorry I'm late, I say. 15 pairs of eyes turn to me. Good morning, Nakai, he responds. Muto seems to be somewhat confounded by my coming in late, as if I interrupted his flow or something. Judging by the rambling lectures his classes tend to be, that might be the case. I pass him the note the nurse gave me. Muto takes it with a nod and reads it quickly. He lifts his eyebrows and gives me kind of a stern look, but doesn't say anything, just nods solemnly again. I shrug and he gestures at me to run along, so I naturally do. Only 2 pairs of eyes remain keenly following me as I walk to my seat. I'm not surprised in the least when I feel Misha's fingernail prickle through my shirt about 15 seconds after seating myself. Psst! Where were you? None of your business, I say. I know this is probably the worst answer I can give, as it only serves to pique their curiosity, but I have no energy to come up with an elaborate cover stories right now. However, Misha backs off. She's unexpectedly fast to give up today. In a minute, she's back at poking at me with her finger. Come on, tell us. Shi-chan is very interested too. It was just my wishful thinking. She just talked about it with Shizune, probably devising ways to get me to spill the beans. No, I say. She retreats to negotiate again. As a member of the student council, it's your duty to tell us why you're skipping class, especially if it's something fun, fun, fun. Give up, I respond. I'm not going to tell. Is that so? Yeah. She thinks about this for a moment. That's stingy, Hee-chan. I can hear the pout in her voice, disappointed and downcast. She retreats again for a moment to negotiate with the brainy half of the dynamic duo before returning. I think we should have lunch together and discuss more about this, Shi-chan says. It's our treat. Besides, you need to make up for not being there in the morning, and we need help with the work. The other students around us are starting to give us looks, probably because Misha is leaning so much over her desk that she's almost bumping heads with me. Her curly hair brushes my neck. It smells like shampoo and very much like whatever she puts in there to make it go like that. I think the girl in front of me is trying to eavesdrop. Hopefully nobody is getting the wrong idea about this, though I'm not really sure how it would be possible to get any other kind of idea. Luckily, Muto stays oblivious or deliberately ignores Misha. So far. I can't really win this one, can I? I promised to eat with Amy too, but I can't be in 2 places at the same time. I tell them, sorry, I can't. I promised to have lunch with someone else already. Who? Is it a girl? Yeah, I say. Her giggle compels me to quickly follow with something so she doesn't get the wrong idea. It's nothing like that. It's a bit complicated. Complicated. Yeah, that's what my life is, despite already setting into a daily routine of school life. All things must be put in a new kind of perspective in this second life, reconsidered from the point of view of this new me, the me with the broken heart. Also, I say, I don't know if I can come to the council after all. Or at least for now. I have something else I need to focus on first. That's right, I have to rethink my priorities. This is something that has swirled around in my head since the nurse gave me that speech. I really can't afford to pretend I don't have this condition. I'm surprised that I can think so analytically, but I'll go with the flow for now. I tell them, I promise I'll explain properly later, but not now, okay? Please tell Shizune I'm sorry for letting her down. If you say so, Hichan. She sounds surprised and serious, which I don't think I've ever heard Misha to be before. Misha luckily understands that I'm serious. A stroke of luck that I could tell what I mean so clearly even she got it. She retreats to translate our discussion to Shizune. Neither of them talk to me after that. The class goes on lazily. I think I'm starting to get into the rhythm of the school. I have even stopped worrying about taking notes and being overtly attentive. The first days I was pretty high-strung in class. Muto finishes his lecture about electricity early, but continues without a pause about the festival. So, he says, as you know, the festival is on the day after tomorrow. I hope everyone's projects are going to be successful this year. Have a good time, but also come Sunday, please keep the meaning of this festival in your minds. Games and fried food, Misha says. Everyone burst out in laughter, and so do I. Yes, thank you, Mikado. But what I meant was more like, the remainder of his sentence is buried beneath the ring of the lunch bells, and everyone starts packing their things. Muto deliberates for a moment, but since almost nobody seems to pay attention anymore, he gives up and sits down. It's crowded in the hallway, or as crowded as hallways in this school probably get. Most of the students seem to be heading down for the cafeteria. Normally, I'd join the flow and grab a lunch myself, but today is different. Today, I've been invited to lunch on the roof. An odd location, but that's where I was told to go. Fortunately, I managed to find shelter from the storm in the lee of the classroom door. Eventually, the torrent subsides, and I step tentatively out into the hallway, only to be met by Emmy, who comes flouncing down the hallway like a cannonball. Hey, it's Hisao! Great timing! I have super extra lunch today, as promised. Let's go upstairs. The stairway to the roof is a little dilapidated, but it's clearly been used recently. At the top of the stairs is a door, complete with missing padlock. I wonder who the intrepid individual was who removed that lock. Amy shoves the door open and steps beaming into the sunlight. Suddenly, a tall, dark stranger appears out of nowhere, standing imposingly in front of us. Amy flinches back, almost falling back down the stairs. Eek! Hello. Yipes, you scared me, Rin, she says. Wait, isn't she? Hello. Noticing that Rin is speaking to me, Amy looks curiously at me. You two know each other, she asks. I look confusedly at Amy. She's that friend of yours, I ask. Rin has turned her gaze toward the clouds drifting above the school. I didn't know you knew this person, Amy. The awkward silence lasts only for a few seconds until Amy lets out a tiny giggle, shrugging the coincidence off. I invited Hisao for lunch. If you know him, that's just better. Oh, does this mean I don't get food? Or did you invite him for lunch without the lunch? Neither, Amy says. I have food for 3. Nice thinking, Ren says. They walk to the other end of the roof while I stay at the clock tower for a while, taking in the atmosphere. There's nobody else but us here. I guess the roof is not as popular as it is in other schools. A few rundown benches and tables are scattered around the edges, perhaps in an attempt to make the rooftop look less desolate. The small pebbles covering the roof rattle beneath our feet. I peek through the chain-link fence to take a look at the school grounds and beyond. Students are strolling in pairs and groups around the quadrangle and at the cafeteria. A few delivery trucks are driving past the school toward the convenience store nearby. Somewhere a watchdog barks at a passerby. Somehow, when I look towards the town center, the small town feel strikes me very strongly, almost palpably. The hectic lifestyle of big metropolises seems so far away and foreign here. Nobody has to run to catch a bus like their life depended on it, or get their senses overloaded by the neon lights and traffic jams. I feel surprisingly optimistic about this new life of mine, looking at my new hometown, even if it's only going to be mine for one short year. Finding out about my illness and having to move away from home all came so suddenly I haven't had time to think about how I feel about it. When I step out of the shadow of the clock tower to the open, I feel warmth touching my back. The sun shines from a perfectly clear cerulean sky. A cool breeze sweeping over the rooftop makes me shiver, but only briefly. The wind carries the scent of trees and flowers, not smog and car exhaust like it used to, just a few weeks ago. Amy settles on a bench with Ren in tow and produces one big and two small lunch boxes from her bag. "Come on, Hisao," she calls. "What are you waiting for?" She is beckoning me to join them, making room on the already small bench. I seat myself on the corner of the bench to take as little space as possible. It's pretty cramped, but somehow all three of us fit on it. "Impressive view," I say. Amy surprises a giggle and places a lunchbox in front of Ren and hands another lunchbox to me. "Here you go, lunch as promised," she says. Homemade, no less. I'm impressed. "Wow," I say, "this looks really good." "Thanks. I make them myself when I can." Conversation dies off as I set about the business of feeding myself. Taking a few bites, I glance up and notice Ren deftly opening the lunchbox and popping a forkful of food in her mouth using only her feet. Even though I've seen it before, I can't help but be impressed at her dexterity. It's also a reminder of the sort of place I am in right now. Will I ever get used to sights such as this? I can't decide if getting used to such a thing would be a good thing or a bad thing either. Does getting used to this place mean that I'm giving up on being a normal person? Or does it just mean that I'm becoming more understanding about those around me? I'm distracted by my thoughts by the sight of Emmy tearing into her lunch as if it had insulted her ancestors. "You seem pretty hungry," I say. Amy looks up, mouth half full, and swallows before nodding. "My morning run always works up an appetite. Which is great because then I burn through lunch pretty quickly. Helps me keep my girlish figure." Ren says, "What would happen if you lose it? Would you become a man?" I nearly choke on my lunch, trying not to laugh. "It's a figure of speech," Amy says. "Does your figure have to run in the mornings too?" Ren asks. "Do you always talk like this?" I ask. "Talk like what?" Amy says. "Like what?" Ren says. I think that answers my question. Never mind. So, I struggle to think of small talk and settle on the obvious question. "How'd you two meet?" Ren seems content to let Amy answer this question. "Someone in the housing department thought that we complement each other well, and so we were assigned rooms next to one another." "Complement each other?" I ask. "Like shoes and a suit," Ren says. "Huh?" Amy giggles at my confusion. "Put us together," she said, "and we've got all our limbs. Get it?" "Ah. So I started helping Rin get ready in the mornings, and that was that. I mean, you can't help someone get dressed every morning and not get along. I see, I say. Rin chooses this moment to interject. I have trouble with shirts, she says. Right, I say. That seems fairly obvious. Really, she says. Kind of, I say. This isn't helping, but at least Amy seems to find the whole thing funny. That, combined with the fact that Rin is genuinely curious, makes me feel slightly better and yet confused. I mean, you've got no arms, I say. So, putting on a shirt seems like one of those things that would be difficult? You know what? I'm just going to stop talking now. It'll save me a whole lot of trouble in the long run. Rin nods in what I suspect is meant to be a sage manner. I see, she says. The conversation dies as I turn my attention back to my lunch. It's really quite good. Amy finishes her lunch first and makes a contented noise. Ah, that was good, she says. As she busies herself with cleaning up her lunch, Rin speaks up. I'm thirsty, she says. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Sorry, Emmy says. With a flourish, she reaches into her bag and removes a trio of juice boxes. She tosses me one that appears to be cranberry juice, one to Rin that appears to be some kind of strawberry milk, complete with a pink color scheme, and keeps an equally pink box of some kind of fruit punch for herself. Rin dexterously stabs her straw through the top of her box and begins to drink. I'm once again impressed by how flexible she is, but this time I keep my comment to myself. Somehow I don't think either Amy or Rin are the sorts of people to think twice about the way they work around their particular disabilities. Rin especially so. Indeed, she gives off the impression of being entirely unaware that she's missing any limbs at all. Whether or not that's a conscious decision is another matter. I'm honestly not sure. Emmy asks, So, Hisao, how do you like it up here? I say. It's quite nice, actually. I like high places, for the view. Thanks for inviting me up here. And for the lunch, too. Amy grins a 1,000-watt grin, pleased by my response, I suppose. No problem, she says. Feel free to eat with us next time, too, okay? I won't make you a lunch, but you can bring your own up here. No lunch service, I say? I don't know. Amy looks mock offended. Trying to take advantage of my good nature? The nerve! She giggles. Well, if that's your answer, I guess Rin and I will just keep eating lunch all alone. I am suddenly assaulted by the most heart-rending puppy dog eyes I've ever seen as Amy pouts. Kidding, I say. I was kidding. I'd love to eat lunch up here again. Good location, and the company's okay, too. Amy frowns a bit at my declaration of okay, but seems happy enough that I've accepted her invitation. I guess this makes us friends now. Or at least acquaintances. The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. Rin, you didn't finish your lunch again, Amy says. I wasn't that hungry, she says. If you don't eat more, you're going to fade away. Rin shrugs, as if this is an acceptable risk. Come on, I say, we better get going. The three of us head down the stairs together. All right, everybody, we are officially on the Emmy train now. We had a couple of big decisions to make during this particular episode. The first one was where Misha and Shizune are bugging us to find out why we're late for class after we had to be at the nurse's office for collapsing out on the track. And this one here, if you do the I don't want to talk about it, it continues on. These are the two This is the particular area here I was discussing when I talked about the rare scenes that you get. This whole scene in the classroom where you return to class and Misha and Shizune bug you about why are you late and are you going to have lunch with them. That is the scenes that you get if you choose Shizune all the way down and then decide to go with the Emmy route. Otherwise, you never see these, and I didn't see it the first time. In fact, I didn't see it either time. When I went down Shizune or whenever I went down Emmy, I didn't see these scenes during that time. So I purposely went through them with the flow sheet this time, the flow chart, to make sure that I got them. But yeah, you got the Shizune here where it's like I don't want to talk about it, and that takes you further on to the next question. If you chose the yeah, I sure was having fun at the nurse's office, they quit asking you about it. You end up not having lunch with Amy, and you go down the Kenji route. So it is a very important decision that you make right there. The next one here is also part of it, where you wouldn't normally get it unless you go this particular, take these particular choices to get here. You still get the choice of, are you going to go to lunch with Amy and her friend up on the roof, or are you going to go to lunch with Shizune? So even at this point, you can still go to lunch with Shizune and go down the Shizune path. At that point, Amy basically gives up on you. You no longer go running with her, and you are taking the Shizune path. So this is the last point at which you can choose to go to Amy, which we did and have put us on the Amy path. So there we are. One also interesting thing, it is very unusual that I didn't know this until I saw the actual flow sheet, the flow chart that I'm using to follow along here, is that you would expect that Amy and Ren would be on the same path, that you would go down that path since they're friends with each other. You'd hit that path and eventually you would get a choice to split off between Amy and Ren. But actually, Ren, you have to be on the Lily and Hanako path to join up with Ren. So, very strange that that's the way that it goes there because of the friendship between these two girls. But yeah, over here it's very strange that you to get Amy and Shizune are on the same branch together, and that Ren is on a totally separate branch. So there you go. And from here on, we will be following on what's happening with Amy. Sorry.